Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Great Britain in OpenTTD. Now, I'm sorry about the last episode. It was quite rushed in the editing, which is why there wasn't any sort of voiceover during the time-lapse or anything like that. I'm going to try to do that this episode though. But there have been quite a lot of changes between episodes that I want to show you beforehand. I'm just going to start off here in the southwest, where what I have done is I've added a few freight lines which we're not going to be using yet but are part of the railways that opened. And I've also went and modified the stations so they're close to what they are in reality. Like, I've put in 3 platforms even though we're not going to be using them yet. Or if I go up to here... I haven't done that one. I forgot to do that one. Oh well. Yeah, I've made Canterbury into a station which is actually, so we don't have to come back and change it all once all the other mainline railways open. It's just because I want to minimise doubling back on myself almost. It also makes it look a fair bit nicer. What I've done to find all the layouts of the stations is I have used Railmap Online as well as the National Library of Scotland maps which let me see the layout of the stations roughly in 1900, and also to help me, I've looked at the timetables to see which services come out of the station, so I don't have to put in every single platform because that would take up far too much space. Down here, I've actually learned that this railway, it was a tramway when it opened, so I might remove it, but honestly it's in now, so oh well, I'm not that bothered. As long as you guys aren't. It didn't get converted to a railway until the 1860s. But, oh well. Moving on, I'll show you the changes I've made. Up in Lancashire, I've changed all these stations to roughly represent reality, though most of the time the change was just adding a small shelter to these stations. As you can see, some of these stations aren't actually connected to a town. However, they'll be used as interchange places between several lines, and that's mostly just to so my computer doesn't explode in the late game, pretty much. This is a temporary station, so I haven't really touched that. It will be closing sooner or later. Well, earlier than all of the stations. Keep on moving northwards. Don't think I've touched this station, this line much. However, I think I have changed up these depots a little bit. Yeah, we've got Selby and Neville Hill. Here, I've actually removed the Clarence Railway because it wasn't long until it was just a small industrial line, and these trains can easily be redirected around the Stockton and Darlington, which they were in reality. Whereas the Clarence Railway still has actually opened as their line between this port and Stockton up to Ferry Hill, and it will expand sooner enough. Also, I've made this huge diversion here, rather than just building a strip, because this line will become a small, unused branch soon enough when Darlington Bank Top opens. So it is just temporary, and then this line will be extended from here, which is why I measured out this station during the time lapse as well. More station changes. Also, I've put in junctions here and there, just so I can measure things out and roughly put them where they're going to be when I add them. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, yeah, I've done the same with Edinburgh and Dalkeith. Not much to say, apart from an occasional freight branch as well. And then finally up in the central Scotland area. I think that's all. I'm going to try and provide a voiceover in the time-lapse, but this one I think is going to be considerably longer, and I may have to record it in several sections because this is when Railway Mania is really starting to kick off. We're going to see a lot of huge railways built. Like, I think we're going to get to London all the way from Warrington in this episode. The Midland might be opening in this episode, I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out in the time-lapse. See you guys on the other side. Hello, and welcome to a time-lapse that's like 8 hours in the making, recorded across the time of like a week. Look, and I think you'll only be seeing about half of what I accomplished in that time. It does mean that I will have to do way more episodes than I expected, because I will have to split this episode up into 2, just so you guys don't have to watch a 2-hour-long video. But hopefully 1 hour isn't too long. Anyway, what we're seeing here is the opening of the Newcastle and Carlisle Railway between Hexham and Blaydon. Now the ground is all just dirt there because I actually had built that under the wrong company, which I do on mod, and it probably will not be the last episode that I do it in. But oh well. Then I'll just put in a road shuttle, just so people actually use the services that I put in. We'll extend that line to Newcastle later in the episode. Then we're seeing the Edinburgh and Dalkeith Railway extending down to Leith Docks. Now this branch was, well, the whole railway was just purely freight when it first opened, but we can't really simulate that because a lot of these railways were just transporting coal into cities. But you can't really recreate that in this game, because the only thing that can be shipped into cities is goods, and then you've got to transfer stuff from industry to industry, and so on. So I'm just going to use passengers to simplify all that. I do use goods in some places. I think I've just disappeared for a while. I think during these disappearances, I'm looking through timetables to find out where all the services from certain stations go. Or I'm looking at maps to see if the line is double track or single track or quadruple track, that sort of thing. I apologise for those random downtimes. Now I think I've only just noticed that I put in a train and then destroyed one of the stations. Going to might fix that later, but no, doubt it. Anyway, now we've seen the construction of the Manchester and Bolton Railway, which is going to become one of the constituents of the Lancashire and Yorkshire. We also see some competition now between the London North Western service and the Lancashire and Yorkshire one, soon to be. Some of the stations, I actually looked them up on a website that shows you a bunch of old maps and other websites like that, just to sort of see, get a general layout of the station so I know what to put in. So I think I spent some time debating what to do, because it needs to stay functional to the game as well as realistic, which is much harder than it looks. Yeah, here I was just flicking through all the services in my 1910 Bradshaw, just to see how many platforms to put in, and I finally settled on this design. All the depots as well. All the depots are, not only do they have their British Rail shed codes as they were in 1948, but I'm going to try and put them in the right places. Yep, this is a small one, just the Warrington and Newton Railway being absorbed by the Grand Junction, which hasn't opened yet, but it will later in the episode. Grand Junction absorbed that railway as means of accessing the Liverpool and Manchester. So Then we have the Bristol and Gloucestershire Railway extending from Mangotsfield, its current terminus, into Bristol. I'm not sure what the first station in Bristol was, but the Midland terminus in Bristol, at least by the 50s, was St Philip's, which I think was just a small one. So I'm using that one currently. It also saves people changing, getting buses into the town, which should see more passengers. This railway doesn't actually open at Yate, as it does in the game right now. It actually opened to just a few coal mines, which is why I put it as Coal Pit Heath. And so the station's also called Coal Pit Heath. And that coal mine, as you can see there, is where it actually went. Anyway, now we are seeing the Hartlepool Dock and Railway. That's actually happened a few times where the railways actually owned the docks which they served. Not only did this give them a monopoly, but it also saved them. Now there's actually two stations, Hartlepool, and Hartlepool West. This is the terminus station, Hartlepool. Hartlepool West being the current open one. Me planning the Castle Eden Railway, which we'll be putting in just so the line's straight, because it would bug me if it was just off by one. Sorry if the recording audio and the video is off by a little bit. It's just because I've had to crop out tiny little bits of the video after recording the sound. I'm just still figuring out this whole video editing thing. There's another thing you see, I built up the railway under the wrong company, which means I've had to go back and start it all over again. Luckily it only takes a few seconds. I'm just waiting for February to roll around so I can build the next railway. I've actually missed a few times. I've had to build a few railways late, but it doesn't matter really. Nothing's going to happen here. Yep. I think I realised that and paused. We are going all the way down to the capital for the first railway in London, the London and Greenwich Railway, which opened between a temporary terminus near London Bridge and Greenwich. This railway was actually entirely on a viaduct, which still stands and is used to this day. Spent a lot of time debating how to build London Bridge because I've got to put in a lot of stations all quite close to the city centre of London. So I have to plan in advance all these stations, because I have to maximise realism and capacity of the stations while making sure I have room for others. See, I've done it again, I'm on the wrong company. Another thing I have to bear in mind is that even though I have only 4 in-game companies, there's a lot more at the time. So I have to allocate certain platforms to certain pre-grouping companies, although that's the same company in-game. I wasn't sure where to put in a bus shuttle for this, so I just kind of left it as an aesthetic thing. Here I am, I've realised I was on the wrong company. Let it play because we don't have another railway until May. I am annoyed at myself for how many times I've missed. Probably going to do it again here. No, I realised just in time. Anyway, now we have the Whitby and Pickering Railway, also today known as the North Yorkshire Mews Railway, which at first was horse-drawn and wasn't turned into steam haulage until the 1840s, because then it was absorbed by a much richer company. Next on the list is the Feston York Railway, which opened under horse haulage. However, I couldn't really do that in this game yet because the narrow gauge engines aren't available till later. Not sure what yet. I think I will just put the railway in as soon as we unlock the narrow gauge trains. So now I'm just waiting till July, and we're going back to the Newcastle and Carlisle next. At this point this boat was lost and I couldn't figure out why, so I just gave up. Actually remember to change back companies for this time. Anyway, July 1836 saw the extension of the Newcastle and Carlisle Railway into Carlisle. It actually the terminus was Carlisle London Road, I believe. However, that closed quickly and was converted to a goods station, so we're not putting it in. And then Carlisle Canal was used, but that closed just for passengers as well soon. So we're using Carlisle Citadel, which is going to be the only passenger station in Carlisle. I am going to put Carlisle Canal in, but that'll just be the transfer point between goods. Because for goods, I'm not going to operate cross-country goods services. Instead, if a goods train passes from one company's metals to another, I'll make that train stop there and then transfer its load at a good station, and then another train will take it on its way to the next industry. Mostly for realism, as wagons would be exchanged in large sidings. Because I'm destroying so much of the towns to build railway stations, I have actually put town growth on fast, and then once the towns grow to a reasonable size, I'll turn it off. My first idea was to put in Carlisle Citadel Station as a joint station between the London North Eastern and the London Midland Scottish, because the original way infrastructure sharing worked for this game is that you requested specific companies, or at least in-game companies, to use their metals. But now it's just a matter of settings in there as a whole, where you enable it or disable it, which I'm slightly annoyed about, but oh well. It just means I'd have to rebuild the station into London Midland Scottish. Because Carlisle is a place where, let me think, I think 6 different railway companies meet, so it's a bit messy. Now we're seeing the, Durham and Sunderland Railway, which connected Sunderland finally with the Stockton and Darlington network. Oh, sorry, the Hartlepool Dock Railway network, which will soon be connected to the Stockton and Darlington network, and then at the other end they'll be soon connected to Newcastle and so on to Carlisle. We're finally seeing all the railways being linked together. This is the Newtile and Cooper Angus Railway, which will soon become actually part of the West Coast Main Line. I say soon, it'll be like 20 in-game years, if that. Instead of messing around with getting a train up there from the depot and all that, I decided to extend their current service from Dundee to Newtile all the way to Cooper Angus. I think this railway was another one that was just freight for a while, but I'm not putting that in. Anyway, March of this year sees the Newcastle and Carlisle Railway finally extended to, well, gated at the time, because the Tyne was far too big to cross with a cheap bridge, but it wasn't gated for that long, so and I didn't want to mess around with that many stations, so just putting it in as Newcastle. Initially I think that Railway accessed properly Newcastle by a branch from Blaydon, which I will put in at the end of this episode, which won't really be useful, but it's too late now. And I think it is used for services up to Blackhill as well. I'll have to refer to the timetable. That's another reason I want to grow the towns out, so I could actually put in some sort of suburban service into all the cities. Next we have a very big one, and that is the previously mentioned Grand Junction Railway. I'll probably install our trains first. But anyway, this railway is going to open between Warrington and all the way down to Birmingham. Yeah, this is me rearranging the trains because now we actually have a full, well, nearly main line. We can actually recreate the services as they are in reality, at least at the time, which is trains to some turning into Hexham and then some going all the way to Carlisle, skipping some stations. I have put in stations that just serve nothing because, like I said, they'll be serving junctions, and when the city grows out, they'll be serving houses on the outskirts. Like Dunstan there. It's useful at the minute, but once town grows, we'll get passengers there. finally going down to the Grand Junction. Once again, flicking through the timetable, trying to find what services ahead of the crew so I know how many platforms to put in. original West Coast Main Line didn't go through the line we know today, which is via Dudley Port and Smithick. It actually went just south of Walsall, went across what is now the Chase lines and the Cross City lines. That the current line wasn't open until the 1850 or something like that. Now this line actually went into Birmingham Curzon Street, but that was, well, that station closed in the 1890s, I believe. So I'm just going to put it in straight as a new street, save us some space and annoyance. Spent ages here looking up different services to Birmingham to see how I should build the station. Then I realised, hang on Alex, all the platforms are just through ponds. I've allocated 2 platforms to each of the lines running into Birmingham, one of which being the Chase line here, one of them being the London-Birmingham line south and the other being the Midland line up to Derby, which won't open until the next episode. Once again, just putting in some small stations as commuter ones when the city goes out, which I hope it does. Now here I've actually put in some like one-way depots, because this depot either north or south of here, I can't remember which, is just serving the southbound line, so another depot would be vice versa, and so on. Yeah, as you can see, like I was trying to explain earlier, the Stafford depot is northbound facing, so put the crew one southbound facing. I've made these intercity trains much longer than their much more local counterparts. It's kind of rubbish right now because we only have really slow trains, but which are quickly overloaded with capacity and they can't really hold that much. Besides, if you put a lot on, then it's unrealistic as well, so we just put a lot of trains on, as you can see there. And do the same with the London and Birmingham, which is going to open soon. You'll jump through into a next recording session. Oh yeah, of course. Actually forgot to put in the Durham section of the Sunderland and Durham Railway, which I'm going to put in now, which opened the Durham Elvet station, which closed in, I think it's during the First World War. Durham City becoming the main one. Next we're seeing the opening of the first section of the London and Birmingham Railway between London Euston and Boxmoor, which the station of Boxmoor is still open today, but it's now known as Hemel Hempstead, which which grew out into Boxmoor, whereas back then a branch actually served Hemel Hempstead. Once again, under the wrong company, kicking myself for not realising that. Now I doubt the loop line through Waterford High Street was open at the time, but it was such a small section of track I decided to include it now. I would have done that in a lot of cases, and just save myself from jumping around the country a lot more. And just for simplicity, I'm not including every single railway line in the country. And this is the point I realised I was under the wrong company, so I've got to do this all again. I apologise. I'm sorry if my audio volume fluctuates a lot, by the way. It's just I've got a terrible microphone that seems to become very quiet even if I'm just a few inches away. here I'm putting in Wollaston train depot, which I realised that this is such a busy place, or section of line, one depot would be too congested, so I'm putting in 2, and I can take a while to decide on what the final layout should be, but I get that in the end. Here we are seeing the opening of the Hale Railway, which was mostly goods at the time, and it was more for tramway than a real railway. And well, we cannot really transport passengers that efficiently because the towns that it's connecting are very small. So we're going to be mostly transporting in iron ore, which this section of the country is very, very rich in, as well as China clay. This section of line is also going to eventually become part of the Great Western Main Line, although this railway was actually built in standard gauge, and the Great Western reached Truro in broad gauge. This line was actually later absorbed by the Great Western, converted to broad gauge, and then eventually back into standard. Looking to places to ship the metal in industry, or just somewhere to transport it by boat, but there's nothing there, so I guess I have to wait. Could have shifted to South Wales, but oh well. Next we have another extension from the Dundee and Newtown Railway, which extends into Glamis. If I'm pronouncing that right, I really hope I am. But anyway, the section between Cooper, Angus and here is going to become a part of the West Coast Main Line eventually. I'll explain that later in later episodes. Next we have fairly humble beginnings of a giant, which is... I'll wait a few moments because I'm messing around here. Here we go. This is the Great Western Railway between Paddington and a temporary terminus at Maidenhead, I believe. Yes, Maidenhead's right. It wasn't long until they extended to Reading and then later Bristol and then eventually the entire western section of England and South Wales. Still just a small section of line in Greater London for now.